Charlotte Sometimes by Penelope Farmer, Chapter 20. So she really was a ghost then, Charlotte said at last reflectively. But Elizabeth was caught in a fire of her own logic and discovery, working it all out for herself. I wonder why the bed worked like that, though, with you and Claire especially. It must have been lots and lots of things, I think, all the ways you were alike. I mean, having no mothers and having younger sisters and just starting at school. Oh, and sleeping in that bed, both of you. There were the dates, too, Charlotte remembered suddenly. You know, the dates were on the same day of the week. I mean, Saturday the 14th then was Saturday the 14th here. I should think that might have helped as well. I should think it was a chance in a million. All those things together at once. You are lucky. I wish things like that happened to me. Do you? Why, aren't you glad it happened? Yes, I suppose I am. It was late now, near prayers. They rushed back to their room to find Vanessa and Janet, tight-lipped and righteous, making a bed each. Susanna, her face a copy of theirs, picking up Elizabeth's clothes. Charlotte was apologetic, but not Elizabeth, who bundled clothes in heaps into her already scrambled drawers, enraging everyone more than ever. But it was she who ceased to be communicative for the rest of the day, shut behind a book. This left Charlotte with time to consider everything they had said, and so it was that she thought of Miss Agnes again. If Elizabeth was right, she could not have changed with her at once, as once she feared she might, because then Miss Agnes would have been alive twice over in 1918. Arthur was dead, though. She must have heard his ghost in the dream that time. Charlotte believed in ghosts, for after all, she had been a kind of ghost herself. Indeed, she could believe in almost anything happening now. 2 days later, the parcel came. No one had sent Charlotte a parcel at school before, nor did she expect anyone to, so she did not bother to look at the list that went up each morning on the notice board. She did not look that day. It was Vanessa who shouted it along the passage. Charlotte, you lucky thing, you got a parcel! It sat in the matron's room and had been opened, as all parcels were. There were several smaller parcels inside. Little round things, grinding in a leather bag, something round and flat wrapped in tissue paper, a box with hard shapes, each wrapped in more paper, the tissue soft and yellow. The bag had marbles in it. And the round flat thing was a solitaire board. In a box were some soldiers, their paint almost all flaked off. There was a letter, too, in a mildly scented envelope. Dear Charlotte, it said, I did not send these because I wanted to make quite sure you would get them, not Claire. I wanted you to have them, though. Miss Agnes gave them to both of us, after all, and I think I've had my turn. I'm afraid, though, I couldn't bear to let you have the doll. It was so like the one my mother had, which got lost, unfortunately, a great deal of time ago. Did you know Claire had died? If so, I hope you didn't worry too much what had happened to me. Like Claire, you used to worry a great deal too much. Of course, it was a terrible shock, but more than 40 years ago now. A long time. Claire caught flu not long after she returned, had it very badly for some reason, and died about 4 days later. Many died of flu that year, you know. I stayed at the school for 6 years, but went home every holiday to our Aunt Dolly. And my father joined us permanently when he was demobilized, so I grew up very happily, though missing Claire. Then I got married and had 4 children, in spite of what I'd always said, which shows, I suppose, that one's views change. One thing I never quite knew was when exactly you would come to the school. If you and Claire ever mentioned the year, I did not remember it, but I hoped one of my girls would coincide with you. This being Sarah's last term, I had rather given up hope. So I was delighted when she wrote to tell me a Charlotte Makepeace had arrived. Of course, she does not know why I am interested in you. Her name is Claire, did you know? Her second name only. Her father preferred Sarah. She's not unlike my sister Claire. I was strongly tempted to come down to see Claire, but did not dare, nor do I think I could face seeing you, or perhaps I could not face you seeing me. I'm quite plump and gray now. To me it feels extraordinary that I should be old enough to be your grandmother, having once been your younger sister. Odder still to you, I should think, since you are still a child. When I was little, I used to think each birthday that now I should catch Claire up, forgetting she would have birthdays coming too. In a way, I suppose, this is fulfillment of a dream gone mad. With love, yours, Emily Reynolds. P.S. The solitaire board is more battered than you'd remember. My children played with it a lot. The soldiers were always very battered, as you will remember. Charlotte had locked herself in the bathroom to read this letter. After a while, she unlocked the door and took the packages back to her own room. She hid the solitaire board under some clothes in her drawer, put the marbles in a glass tumbler, which she filled up with water and set on her chest of drawers. She put the lead soldiers in flank on either side. The marbles looked very pretty, everybody said, and Charlotte was pleased, because no longer now was her chest of drawers the only one without ornament. It looked individual. It belonged to someone. It seemed odd that it belonged to her more as Claire than as Charlotte, but she had begun to realize that she could never entirely escape from being Claire. The memory of it, if nothing else, was rooted in her mind, and what had happened to her would go on mattering, just as what had happened in the war itself would go on mattering permanently. It was almost the end of term now. Charlotte, like everyone, longed for home, for Aviary Hall and her sister Emma. Excitement lit itself and grew through all the Christmas parties, plays, and concerts. By the last morning, the joy of going home had overcome all animosities, and the 5 from the cedar bedroom sat together on the bus in the most friendly way, giggling, singing, making silly jokes. The bus went by modern, noisy roads, but when it came to a river and crossed over the bridge into town, just for a moment, looking down the river, Charlotte could almost have believed it was to pass 1918 again. The pigeons and ducks and gulls there looked no different, nor did the faded, once elegant buildings with their elaborate cornices. The stucco was cracked, the garden full of weeds, just as they had been then after 4 whole years of war. The river was as gray and empty, the winter trees as bare. About her everyone had begun to chant, "No more Latin, no more French, no more sitting on a hardboard bench." Vanessa, Janet, Elizabeth, Susanna were chanting now, but it could just as well have been Bunty or Emily or Ruth or any of them, Charlotte thought, till she noticed 2 airliners buzzing in the sky like insects with fastened wings. And those had to belong to now, not then. Still, she craned to see the river as long as she could, and so it was she saw Sarah Reynolds in the seat behind. Sarah smiled at her. She was leaving school today, and Charlotte thought sadly she might never see her again. Yet as the bus crept on through the neon-lighted town, Charlotte too began to sing, to chant with the rest, for after all, she was Charlotte now, safe in the present, going home to Aviary Hall, to her grandfather Elijah and her sister Emma. No more filthy bread and butter, no more cocoa from the gutter, no more beetles in my tea, making googly eyes at me, no more spiders in my bath, trying hard to make me laugh. She had never seen spiders in a bath, though, in either time, thought Charlotte seriously, as the bus ground into the station yard and came to a noisy halt. And that is the end of Charlotte Sometimes, but I guess there are 2 more books about the family, Emma in Winter and The Summer Birds. And if you would like me to read those to you, just let me know in the comments. We'll do a myth by Penelope Farmer next, and then there will be another school story to follow. I'm excited to see you in the next read aloud.